Good evening. The Ranter is back to go into yet another rambling diatribe of the news of the day. And, oh geez, what is the news of the day? Pretty much like the news of the day of the last time I did a video. Now, on that video, which was going over the unfortunate death of Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis, dying from the gunshot wounds done to her by ICE agents, remembering that tragedy and remembering the circumstances surrounding her death, the circumstances of the aftermath of her death, the official line of the government, and those who feels the need for their political loyalty to squint enough so that they could actually nod their heads to what the DHS was saying about Renee Nicole Good, and in the parallel universe that they want us all to believe we live in, where their perception is supposed to be our reality. So you squint, that maybe when you squint you can actually see that Renee Nicole Good was actually gunning her car at the ICE agent, and thereby the ICE agent having no choice to defend himself by shooting Renee Nicole Good. But when you stop squinting and you look at the videos, which is provided at all angles, to see that not only she was turning her wheel away from the ICE agent to try to avoid hitting him, that the wheels of the car were turning away from him to avoid hitting him, that if he was hit at all, it was jostled and bounced away, despite whatever internal bleeding he had, which he miraculously was able to walk up and down the street with, apparently, after shooting her. That their official line of her being a domestic terrorist that was weaponizing her car to run over ICE agents kind of falls flat because of your own eyes, that you could actually see it. Well, that was last week. And now, as of Saturday morning, another person falls to the hands of ICE, or at the very least a border patrolman, if we don't want to say actually ICE. Alex Pretti, a ICU nurse who cares for veterans, who apparently from family and friends was an all-around awesome human being, a kind and gentle soul. He gets killed. And of course, DHS has to come up, including Ice Barbie Christy Knoll, who came out to say that Renee Nicole Good was a domestic terrorist. She comes out, and also Gray Bovino, who was, we'll get into that, the commander at large of Border Patrol in Minneapolis. And they came out with simultaneous speeches of the same scripts, calling Alex also a domestic terrorist who was there to commit maximum amount of damage with his gun and the 2 magazines. He was going to harm and kill law enforcement. He was going to assault them. And when the agents fired at him, it was defensive shots. Okay. The problem with this is that there is no room to squint on this one. Because once again, with Renee Nicole Good, we got camera angles in all directions to show that Alex was never in a position of harming anyone. His intervening act, his obstructive act, his, dare we say, assaulting act on these agents was him picking up a woman that they knocked down. That was his involvement. All the fact that he was recording them on his camera. And when you first see him in the videos, he is helping direct traffic during these incidents, and then goes over to try to help the woman, and then again he gets bum rushed, he gets knocked down, he gets pepper sprayed. 6 people were jumping onto him, knocking him down, holding him down, and then in the process of this mauling by these agents, one of them finds the gun that he has in his holster, not touching. His hand was nowhere near. And this agent pulls the gun away, walks away with it, and in a matter of seconds after that, they shoot him. And the defensive shots was going towards his back, shooting him from behind. You see still pictures. It was an execution. Once again, DHS, Ice Barbie, Christy Nome, and Greg Bellino wants to believe you're living in an alternate dimension of reality for you to buy their bullshit. Stephen Miller, goes onto social media and says he was an assassin. And then when it turns out that, he has a legal permit to carry the gun, conceal permit. And these people who are still trying to defend all this. He was just looking for trouble. He was bringing a gun to a protest, and nothing good happens when someone brings a gun to the protest. These are the same people that defended when armed protesters were in the Michigan State House because they were protesting against masks during COVID. People like Kash Patel put up money for Kyle Rittenhouse when he took his gun out for a walk at a protest and he shot people. But he became a Second Amendment hero. Oh, but Alex, with his gun that he never reached for, he was just looking for trouble. He was there to inflict maximum amount of damage and kill law enforcement. Bullshit. Bullshit. And we all know it's bullshit. Renee Nicole Good was bad enough. We didn't need to get lower. We did not need to get worse. But, once again, this administration says, hold my beer, we'll make it worse. Because, as it turns out, one of the byproducts of the aftermath of Renee Nicole Good is that ICE agents actually used that death to intimidate other protesters. And I have a little bit of a theory, which I will go into because it's kind of bouncing between Renee Nicole Good and Alex Pretti, both of which deserve equal time. For both of them it should be respected on their unfortunate deaths. I have a theory that Renee Nicole Good was killed not just because she was obstructing the way for ICE agents. You see, at the start of her video, she was waving people along past her. She was partially covering the road, but people were going by her. If the ICE agents stayed in their fucking car, they could have been waved by too. Because I don't think she was there really to obstruct. This is my theory. I think she was there to keep tabs. As other people have done, they who would follow ICE, so that they can help their neighborhood and warn them that ICE is coming. That is all the obstruction that she was really doing. And the reason why I have this theory on this is that people who got threatened by ICE afterwards, whenever they were perceived to be following ICE or recording ICE, the ICE agents would bring up the killing of Renee Nicole Good and remind them of that, to try to ward them away from recording them, to stop them from following them. But like I said, whatever ambiguity that you can get from the Renee Nicole Good situation, if you squint tight enough, there is no squinting about Alex. Once again, from every angle that the available cameras gave, completely contradicts to the point of lunacy of what the official DHS line is concerning him and his motivations, or what he was going to do, or what he was there to do. And as far as political lines go, the when in doubt is that if you can't push the bullshit like that, then you go into whining mode where, well, this wouldn't happen if Tim Walz and Mayor Frey didn't like defend their people and defend their people. Why didn't you just tell their people in Minneapolis just to comply, just to roll over and submit? This is all their fault. And also it's Biden's fault for letting all those illegal immigrants in. It's all his fault. It's all his fault. It's all Biden's fault that piece of shit shot Renee Nicole Good. It's Biden's fault that they shot and killed Alex Pretti. No. Because if any of that bullshit was at all true, that, you can point your finger at Biden for letting these illegal immigrants in, you're still responsible for your own actions and your own choices, and you chose. And I'm talking about those people who did make the choice to pulling out their guns and shooting people, American citizens. I think it was emboldened on those who killed Alex. They were emboldened to act the way they acted because of the circling of the wagons for the agent that killed Renee Nicole Good. From the official top down saying that, he had absolute immunity. When the federal government, when DHS usurped the state and local law enforcement from their ability to investigate what happened to her. And in a matter of, 24, 48 hours, they cleared the case. They cleared the case of the poor little ICE agent, the real victim here. How did he get those internal injuries when he was, internal bleeding when he was walking back and forth up the street? Would you put it past this administration that they just took the guy away and then, go, sorry, Johnny, but, we have to do some appearances here, and they beat the shit out of him with baseball bats just to have him have internal bleeding? Would you put it past them? That's conjecture. Not saying it happened. That is just a thought. But they were told through the media sphere out there, that their actions would have no consequences. Absolute immunity. And putting aside for a moment the killing of Renee Nicole Good, all the other atrocities that these people were doing in Minneapolis and in other places, all in the name of their directive. And all of this was telegraphed. None of this is really a surprise. Trump wanted them to go to Minneapolis, as he wanted them to go to all the blue cities, blue-controlled cities, especially the awful Tim Walz there in that state of Minnesota. Ew. He used the predicate pretext of sending them specifically to Minneapolis because of the Somali fraud, which turns out the majority of that was already investigated. People were put on trial, and people were convicted during the Biden administration. But a tyrant will always find a pretext for his tyranny. So why not use that jackhole and his own YouTube bullshit to rustle up another conspiracy of something that was already adjudicated. So send them in, but make sure it's harsh. Make sure they're harsh. Make it a spectacle. Make it a show. And don't be nice. Don't be nice. They'll always have your back. Don't be nice. It got to the point where, after Renee Nicole Good, that they were talking about, before Alex was shot, they were talking about giving ICE the carte blanche to burst into people's houses without warrants. Just go in there. House-to-house searches. Do that shit. But all these freaking atrocities that was done. The guy was shot in the face with a non-lethal round, right to the eye, lost the sight in his eye. Did they even arrest him? Or was that Pop that just walked away because you're all big tough guys and you're just strutting around in your weekend warrior suits? The disabled woman they dragged out of a car because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's all it was. She was driving to her doctor's office. She was disabled. She was telling them she was disabled. They broke into her car. They cut her out of her seatbelt to drag her away. They're jumping through hoops in order for them to justify detaining a 5-year-old. Every other time that they do a public display of bullshit, of assaulting people, they think and thought they could get away with it because they had the back of their patron. And when we get a little inkling where some of these people were or who they are in these, masked and no badge, official ICE folk, when there's a little leak of a little information, you find out that some of these people are Proud Boys. Which makes you think, going back to a certain debate during the campaign, stand down and stand by. How many of those people traded their militia gear for ice fatigues and nice masks and helmets to continue the agenda? Within a day of Alex Pretti's death, Pam Bondi sends a letter to Tim Walz. And in the contents of this letter proves that there was no necessity to bring in ICE and in the manner it was brought. Because she says in a manner of kind of extortion, "Oh, we'll take away ICE if you hand us the voter rolls." Really? And a few other demands that they wanted to do, but the Attorney General will make ICE disappear if you just give up the voter information of your state. So I guess there's no real impending need of ICE being there actually, not actually on the actual target mission here, right? Today, however, some form of critical mass finally hit the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself. As it turns out, the tone of the Trump administration started to soften a bit. Trump publicizes that he had conversations with Mayor Frey and Tim Walz, which was confirmed by them. That they're going to back off ICE from Minneapolis. At the very least, Greg Bovino, the guy who was running ICE in Minneapolis, the guy who was kind of, people couldn't help but notice his appearance similarities to Don Knotts. So I would call him Gerbil Knotts, who has like a Gestapo-like coat that he has. That who came out and kept saying that, Alex was not the victim, he was a suspect, and the ICE agents who shot him were the real victims. Who spent his last 24 hours of his very busy schedule of being a really big, important person, having Twitter spats with Republicans who question the brutality of ICE, questions why would they have issues with someone armed going to a protest when they didn't have a problem with it beforehand. Well, poor Greg is no longer in the position that he is in. He will be sent back to his base, and there might be a retirement coming in his future. Ice Barbie, who, after agreeing to have another conversation with the Senate in March, seemed to disappear. Oh, where did Kristi Noem go after her spectacular performance over Renee Nicole Good and now Alex Pretti? Where'd she go? A corner may have been turned for the Trump administration, at least Donald Trump, who is drowning the perceptions. Now remember, this guy, regardless of his faults and sins and evils, you can't take away the fact that he knows the concept of perception. He lived on perception. He wanted to always control the narrative in whatever aspect he was in his life. And he was getting politically lambasted for his hard edge in wanting to have retribution in Minnesota and Minneapolis specifically. I mean, he backed, when Renee Nicole Good went down, he initially backed the official story, how she ran over. It took him having to actually watch the video in front of people and react kind of naturally to it, to him try to soften. Especially after he finds out that Renee Nicole Good's family, at least her father-in-law, was a Trump supporter, and he still wants him to be a supporter. Alex Pretti's family isn't as charitable or forgiving. But regardless of how that turns, that does not mean that, a light bulb went off in Trump's head that, this way is the wrong way and he needs to go at it at a different angle. No, don't. He just sees that in the last couple of dried BBs that are rattling around in his rapidly emptying head, that the perception in reality is that he is leading a Gestapo. No matter how hard anyone could try to deny that, the evidence on the ground contraries whatever bullshit they say. So he has to distance himself away from this. Not too much. I'm sure we're going to hear. We'll hear similar things going in different states with blue cities. That's a motif here, because Lord knows if we wanted to go after illegal immigrants, we could go to Florida or Texas. But oh, why? Those are the good ones. But keep in mind something, and this is an overarching arc when it comes to all of this. Everything that has been connected to ICE, what happened to Renee Nicole Good, what happened to Alex Pretti, what happened to all the people who have been assaulted, all the people who have been detained, like the 17-year-old boy who was just working at a Target. They yanked him away, dehumanized him, demoralized him. For apparently they claimed he wasn't documented, even though he was a U.S. fucking citizen, and then they dumped him off in a parking lot at Target. When you hear him crying after he was released on the road, and people come up and ask him if he's okay, and he's bawling his eyes out, you lose the bravado. You even lose the anger. You just feel the emotion, the brokenheartedness. Because even at teenage years, that still gets you. That this is still a kid. The kid that something very, very wrong happened to him. But the overarching thing about all of this is that all this immigration campaign is based on lies. Period and sentence. Trump ran on the campaign of immigration. People voted for him over immigration. They wanted to get the illegals out. Okay? That is what they said. That is what they wanted, right? Now, Obama and previous presidents got millions of people out. Millions of illegal immigrants out. Deported them, right? There weren't any riots when they happened to them, to Obama, to Biden, to George W. Bush, to Clinton. Because they didn't go about it the way Donald Trump goes about it from his last term to this current term. They didn't want to make it a spectacle. They didn't want it to make this big, dramatic, very visible, very vocal, very loud thing. You could say that they tried to target who they were going after. They weren't as indiscriminate as Donald Trump and his administration is. But again, this whole thing is based on lies. Caveat: everyone wants any illegal, undocumented person who have committed crimes to be deported. And not the crime of just being here, being illegal. That's always the strike. That's always them behind the 8 ball. Now I'm talking about when they actually commit crimes. When they actually assault people, rape people, murder people, steal from people. Yeah, everyone. Doesn't matter political stripes or whatever. Everyone wants those individuals gone. Problem is, Donald Trump's administration wants a quota. There's a set number that they want people grabbed and detained and deported away. And they're not really details oriented, are they? They're not really picking people out. And we can go back to a few months ago about Mr. Garcia and what the hell happened to him and what they continue to want to do to him, mistakenly deporting him, and then even though they clearly made the mistake, keep him deported. And when he fights his way back in, they still fight to try to remove him, lying all the way about him being a leader of MS-13. Again, lies is the overarching thing here. The lies of going after the worst of the worst first. Going after the criminals first. Well, the thing about it is that since illegal immigrants commit less actual crimes than Native American folk, and I'm not talking natives, I'm talking about people born here, people this skin pigmentation, or others who were just born here, can't quite fill a quota with that amount, especially if you're not detailed oriented. So instead of researching it, investigating it, grabbing those people that they're specifically researching and investigating, they put out the dragnet. They put out the blanket. They try to drag as many as they can, and they're being as rather indiscriminate as they can. One story that kind of fell through the cracks during the time of Kilmar Garcia was this kid named Gutierrez. Now, Gutierrez was a legal resident, never committed a crime, lived most of his time in the United States, doesn't even have a memory of the native land that he was born from. ICE went in to go after somebody else, but they saw him, and they grabbed him as well. Grab him too. Why? You don't even know him, but you're grabbing him anyway. Why? What could possibly be the reason? See, that's that indiscriminate. Well, let's go after the worst of the worst. Oh yeah, let's go after people at Home Depot. Yeah, let's not be overly eager to paint the paintbrush of them going after people because of their skin pigmentation, or racist enough to go after those places where you stereotypically expect day laborers to be. No, we don't want to connect those dots or anything, because that takes common sense. They don't go after the worst of the worst. That's based on a lie. The people they go after, they don't want there to be any issues. They don't want there to be anyone asking questions. They don't want people to maybe suggest that there was an issue, that there might be a mistake or an error somewhere, like a clerical error, and send someone like Kilmar Garcia to a gulag. Some of these people that get deported and detained who never committed a violent act get sent to places where they get tortured get beaten, get starved. And we're supposed to not care about that. One of the telltale trademarks of the last Trump administration, when it was dealing with immigration, especially about the family separations, was that they never really cared about paperwork. They just took people away, and when people ask where they go, they go, I don't know. I don't keep track of that. I don't know. So, with the background of this is all based on lies. Going up to the lies involving all these assaults that are done on American citizens or undocumented folk. You know, they're going above and beyond the brutality to send a message. To the killing of Renee Nicole Good. To the killing of Alex Pretti. Their first instinct is to lie. First instinct is to obstruct and hide and cover. They cleared the person that killed Renee Nicole Good. Ooh, 48 hours of that primo, really heavy, hardcore investigation that the federal government did. DHS is going to run this investigation that we're all going to have to wait with bated breath of what they're going to say upon him in his death. But his killer, no, we're not supposed to know his killer's names because that might be doxing. It brings us to ask the question again, what does it take? From the domestic, to foreign relations, to Trump flying off to Davos, returning from Davos with nothing to show for him. So for this long-term deal with Greenland that is there for infinity, that does nothing. It just, the European powers let him know that, no, we can't have Greenland. Aw, shucks. He can't be a conquering wartime president. And since he broke Venezuela, the government is still in charge of Venezuela, which is the Maduro government, is now posturing that they're not going to stand for the commands of Donald Trump. The lies surrounding that, to the point of the oil, where he personally pocketed the money from the oil, sent it to his accounts in Qatar. And all the while, underneath all this is still waiting the Epstein files. What, pray tell, shall we be doing next in order for us to avoid noticing the fact that they were supposed to release all the documents and they only released 1% of it? Shall we go to war with Iran? Shall we bomb Tehran in order to make sure that's on page 1? As we did with Venezuela, as we did with Nigeria? Or his hardcore bullshit stance in Minnesota? Should that be the thing on page 1 as opposed to us looking into the Epstein files? You know, we want to be, as people, when we talk about politics, sometimes we use nuance, or we use coy language, or we use, we use phrasing that provokes a thought, but nothing really no real steady statements. No definite statements. Because what if we're wrong? What if you step yourself far off on that ledge and you make a statement or a stance for yourself that you might be able to take back? Or you would have to modify later on in life and someone will remind you of it. Well, here's a statement. These people are fucking evil. They are evil. You don't lie like a rug with horrible consequences, with disparaging the dead like they did to Renee Nicole Good and Alex Pretti, with no remorse, without being evil. To intellectually deny reality and refuse to acknowledge reality when people bring up the videos of every different angle and still say, oh, she aimed a car at someone. Oh, he went there to harm law enforcement officers. He had a gun. Intellectual evil of just lying and refusing to acknowledge the Roy Cohn teachings and trainings to young Donald Trump coming to fruition and spreading out like a tentacle virus to anyone around him to act the same way. Always deflect. Always say they're the ones that are doing it. Never explain. Never apologize. Never admit to being wrong. None of these people ever admitted to be wrong upon the actions of anyone in ICE or in border customs. Whenever they assault someone, whenever they kill someone, can't admit to be wrong because then we might be wrong. We can't be wrong. We simply can't be wrong. We're out there going after those evil, undocumented people, those real criminals. We're the heroes. We're the good guys when we knock women over and then knock over the guy that's helping the woman up and then pepper spraying him and then finding out he has a gun, taking the gun away, then shooting him dead and then walking away while one of them collapsed at the gunfire. Yeah! Go team! People say to abolish ICE. Perhaps in its current incarnation, perhaps there is a component of ICE that would seem to be necessary. And going after people who are undocumented, who do actually commit crimes, that is a good thing, but not acting like it takes a big scythe to cut down a whole populace, regardless of them being criminals or not. No, you have to be. But if you act like you're a law enforcement investigative apparatus and actually pinpoint these people to separate them from the rest of the populace, to have the nuance to understand that not everybody in the populace is the same. And maybe that is a salvageable thing. Maybe that's a noble enough goal to keep that aspect of it alive. But all this other stuff, this fascist bullshit, from people hiding behind masks who may very well have backgrounds of various militia groups that are following their dear leader, that they're there for an agenda not for the United States but for Donald Trump. Yeah, maybe that apparatus needs to be eliminated. So abolish ICE, that form of it, yeah. But reform ICE, also, yeah. Maybe instill with them some values. Maybe have them read the Constitution, since they're trampling on it. You never thought that you would hear upon conservatives or, gun advocate conservatives who were golf clapping Kyle Rittenhouse to going, you really shouldn't take a gun to a protest. Have split screen. Whenever these people go on the news shows, have the host have the video ready of what they said about Kyle Rittenhouse to what they're now saying about Alex Pretti. Because between the two, Alex didn't even touch his gun. Kyle took his gun out to play. And he killed 2 people. He was found not guilty of it and was cited as self-defense when he killed those people. But again, my theory, as I've said before, I submit to you yet again, is that if Kyle never brought out a gun to go out to the protest, not only would those 2 people would have been killed, no one would have approached Kyle. No one would have been instigated or provoked by the little trembling rabbit with a big gun to provoke him and to challenge him. They're dumbasses for doing that, to challenging somebody with a gun. Someone scared with a gun. But if you didn't bring the gun out, no one would have died. He would not have gotten arrested. No one would have bothered him, as no one else was being bothered during that protest. But that's a theory. However, Kyle, the hero of the Second Amendment, defended himself. Alex, domestic terrorist, looking to maximize his ability to harm and kill law enforcement agents, never took out his gun, was knocked down, pepper sprayed, swarmed, disarmed, then killed. If you're on the bandwagon for Kyle, but you have a problem with Alex bringing a gun to a protest, the same thing that Kyle did, except that he never touched his gun, then you're full of shit. Then you are a fucking hypocrite. That whatever values or you have are negotiable. It all depends on the politics. Kyle or Alex? Submit and comply is the words du jour of those just a few short years ago thought they should resist the government for being compelled to wear masks for their health. People like them took their guns to protest. Masks. But these people now they're on the other side of the political power structure, wants those who resist them to submit and comply. Funny how that works. ICE does leave Minneapolis. That's not the end of the conversation. That doesn't absolve the responsibilities of the death of Alex Pretti. It didn't absolve, it won't absolve the death of Renee Nicole Good. It will not absolve the assaults, the guy who lost sight in his eye because non-lethal round goes right to the head. Making it go away, like any form of cover-up, only makes it worse. Just because you stop doing a bad thing doesn't mean that bad thing no longer exists. We wait for the next atrocity. We wait for the next horrible thing to happen. I mean, Alex died on Saturday. What shall we wait to what happens next week? Or the week after that? If there's no accountability or reckoning or personal responsibility or any form of consequences to any of these actions, doesn't that just embolden these actions further elsewhere? Maybe not in Minneapolis anymore because that's becoming a little bit too visible. So we'll try to go somewhere else to do these horrible acts that perhaps there's a little less visual evidence to contradict them next time. So here's the advice. To anyone who decides to leave the safety of their homes, to stand up to what they believe in, to stand in line peacefully to protest, have your cameras, have your phones. Be the person amongst people that are getting every angle when an incident happens. The most dangerous thing that combines Renee Nicole Good and Alex Pretti in their unfortunate deaths is that they did do something that was weaponizing as far as ICE is concerned, as far as this presidential administration is concerned. They weaponized their phones. They weaponized their visibility. They weaponized their eyes. They weaponized their ears. Because the one weapon that truly is a danger to a despotic, fascist movement in a government and their soldiers is the ability for them to be seen in the light of day. Have your cameras. Take the pictures. Can be up close, can be far away. Zoom if you need to. Get high, get low, get every angle. Nothing destroys the narratives and lies than the visual and audio evidence that comes from those who record. If there were no cameras in various angles, the narrative of Renee Nicole Good would be them saying, oh, she ran someone over, so she had to die. If there wasn't the camera angles around Alex Pretti, then the narrative would go, oh, he brought a gun to a protest. Obviously, he was going to do something bad. We had to stop him. He was being violent. They shot in defense. You destroy the narrative. And you destroy the lies. With your phone. With your camera. For yourself. For your neighbors. For your perfect strangers. For the men, women, and children. Innocent bystanders. Those who stand up for themselves. Those who are just walking by, minding their business. Those who are just driving by, minding their business. And get yanked out of their cars because wrong place, wrong time. For those who are just driving down and having flashbangs smash into their cars, harming children. For every documented, undocumented, native-born American. For every persons in this United States who are afforded due process because they are here. Have your phones. Always be ready to record. Never let them control the narrative by turning a blind eye. The ranter rants because the urge to rant is always rising. See you in the next time.